Hi everyone, welcome to this last live episode of Edible Garden. Today I'm going to show you around my front garden. I did a little video about that. That was about 10 days ago, so things have grown a little bit since then. And then, as is the usual format, we move into the kitchen, and I did a whole load of different things with the rosemary, partly because I've got a massive big rosemary bush around the back, and I'm always thinking, okay, what can I make with this? There will be a little Q&A session as well. If you've got any questions in general about growing edibles, do type them in. It doesn't have to be obviously about, the topics about today. It can be about anything. And yes, let's get started with the front garden. Hi, I'm Tanya. Welcome to my edible garden. Today I'm going to show you what I grow in the front garden, show you a few highlights. So here we go. Okay, so this first plant here, this one here, is a bergamot lemon that I've grown from seed. It's about 4 years old at the moment. It was struggling a little bit in the winter, not getting enough sunlight, but it is coming back. So I'm hoping to get either some lemons or at least some lemon blossom, because that smells gorgeous. Okay. This is a lemon pelargonium, which seems very happy, and it's flowering loads. And here are my seedlings, and it's all coming up. It's May at the moment. There is my cat. Right, moving on. This here is an old upcycled wheelbarrow, which is amazing to grow anything that, things like salads and stuff like that, that the slugs like, because they actually won't climb up into there. So what I've got in here at the moment is a lot of purslane. I would highly recommend you grow this. It likes this sunny spot. This is all grown from seed. It grows really quickly and it tastes really good. You can either have it raw in salads, it's a little bit kind of like a succulent almost, or you can chop it from about there and it will always grow back again. So as you chop it, it will grow back, and it tends to grow to about here. And you can also fry it very lightly, like asparagus. You can steam it, and it's really, really good for you. It's got lots and lots of omega-3 and other things. It's got magnesium. I'd have to check up what else it has, but it's a real kind of vitamin and mineral bomb, but especially the omega-3s is what it's well known for. This here is self-seeded, but I'm going to transplant it. It is a tree spinach. It looks absolutely gorgeous with these fuchsia leaves. And my last one last year grew as tall as me, and you can basically pick the leaves as it's growing and use them in salads or use it as you would spinach. And as I say, it self-seeds very, very readily, and I'm letting it grow because it's a really good addition to have to your garden. Here I've planted 4 small tomato plants. Here they are, they're coming up, and I'm testing out something new. This is just to dampen down some of the annual and perennial weeds. I didn't cover this because it's a violet, and I think I'm going to dig it out and plant it somewhere else. So this is it, and I've already put in the bamboo sticks that I can trail the tomatoes up. There we go. Then moving further along, this rose was here, it was in the garden, and it's a kind of, it just comes out all at once. It's not a particularly fragrant one. Let's see if, there we go. But it is absolutely beautiful. I often snip 1 or 2 pieces of that and put it in the kitchen in a vase. So, well, I mean, it is edible, I guess, strictly speaking, but I do really love it. And it never used to flower until I cleared all of that space around it, and suddenly I think it just got this new lease of life. Here I've got my cherry tree that I planted. I think it was about 3 years old. Now it's in total, I think, about 6 years old, yet to give me any more than 1 cherry, but the blossom is really pretty. And that was really why I got it, but obviously still hoping for some cherries. All of this here is really ground cover. I've let it spread. I've put a few of the strawberries here on purpose, and I kind of let it spread. The strawberries are coming. They are starting to turn red, and unfortunately there's little bugs there trying to eat my strawberry crop. Okay, around the back there I'm growing some sunflowers. There we go, there's 1, 2 and 3. They're sitting inside these homemade copper rings, and that's to discourage slugs. They particularly find this plant tasty, so they're being protected there. Here we've got some lavender, which is lovely in a tea and just lovely to brush past. I've got another fragrant plant. I really like to have lots and lots of different fragrances in the garden. Here we go, there's a type of jasmine that I'm just trailing along this otherwise rather ugly fence. And this here, which I've just cut back so it's not looking its best, is a feverfew plant. I got it initially because I do get migraines and headaches, and making a tea out of these helps some types of headaches. Didn't help mine, but it's a really pretty bush. Again, it's very fragrant. It's got I don't particularly like eating it, it's quite bitter, but the fragrance is quite nice, and it comes out with daisy-like white flowers, and it kind of bushes out into a really nice bush, so that's earned its place in my garden as well. Then here, again, I've got all of this here covering my kind of grow box, my grow area, because we've got foxes. There's a lot of cats that come and go, and I don't want them anywhere near the things that I'm going to eat. So this works pretty well. I just detach it here and roll it back whenever I need access to this. So here, this big bush that's about my height is mustard. So this is actually little mustard pods coming along here, but I really just grow it as a green manure. I should have cut this down a while ago, but the bees just love the flowers, so I'm leaving it for the bees. There's not a lot left to eat, but when it's growing, when it's a little bit less mature than this, we do pick the leaves. You can use them in curries. They're really nice because they've got a little bit of a kick to them. You can use them as you would spinach. You can use them in stir fries. You can use them in salads, although I would just pick the very young leaves for salads. There is also one little garlic growing there, and the bean. And apparently the beans don't like garlic growing near them. I've looked this up, and the beans are doing okay, but they are a little bit slow to grow. So I'm wondering if it's got something to do with that garlic kind of anti-companion planting thing. Here, this, actually I'm going to walk around to show you. This big, very healthy, vibrant plant, you might recognize it, is a horseradish. I have tried using some of the younger leaves as wraps for things that go in the oven, for example fish, and they seem to work quite well. And I'm about to dig a little bit of this out and make some nice horseradish sauce. It is really invasive. I've got it in a pot, which is on top of some tiles, which is on top of something else, and it's still managed to creep out the pot and have these little baby plants all around here. But I'm going to dig them up and eat them, so that's fine. And I really do like fresh horseradish, so it's worth having it. The other thing you can do is with the young leaves, this is a bit old now, but with the young leaves you can just use them in a salad, just chop them up. They actually smell slightly of, obviously of horseradish, and it's fantastic. And here we have nasturtiums. These died back, they usually die back at the winter, and then they just die completely. So I have to replant them every year. But this year it was quite a mild winter. So nasturtiums, you can do lots and lots of different things with them. One of them, I'm going to see if there's some here, the seed pods. No, they're not ready yet. The seed pods can be pickled and used like capers, and they are really, really wonderful. They're kind of like spicy capers. You can use the leaves in salads. You can use obviously the flowers as well in salads. And you can take the flowers and the leaves and give them a light tempura batter, and those are really, really delicious. So that is that growing area for now. Later on I'll be planting some things where the mustard grows, maybe tomatoes, maybe cucumbers, and put some teepees in there. Then here I have got my 2 elephant garlics coming. They are getting quite big, here we go. And these 2 are going to burst out at some point into these 2 big poodle tails of purple flower, and the bees will be buzzing around them all day. I'm being asked to play, but I'll have to do that in a moment. Here's my asparagus patch, with some asparagus still coming through here. They do grow incredibly quickly, and I love asparagus. The fresh stuff is amazing, and I would highly recommend you get an asparagus patch. This is when it actually grows out. It kind of grows up into this big fern, which gives you beautiful autumn colour as well. So highly recommend it to put a little bit of patch aside for asparagus. And you really have, you don't have to do anything to it. It just comes up, and then you eat it, and then you maybe give it a little bit of a mulch in the winter. Here, just some more strawberries coming up. These have kind of walked themselves over from wherever they were, and I've just let them do that. I've got some hyacinths left over, and I'm just letting them store some energy into the bulb for the winter, just letting them flopsy over. There we go. And another kind of growing area here. The reason why I built these is that there's virtually no soil under here. There's maybe about, about 15 centimeters of soil. And the rest under there is basically rubble, so it was quite hard to get the tree to take. For example, I had to dig and dig, add extra mulch and so on. Now what you see at the back there is tree trunks, and I got them because I was walking past council group of workers who were cutting down a tree, and I asked them for the trunks because I wanted to, in effect, create a raised bed using those trunks. And I've been learning how to do no-dig beds, and tree trunks are an amazing way to just line the area that you want to grow in. So that's it. That's the front garden. There's my little working space. It is so fragrant. Between that pelargonium, between all the other, I've got the jasmine at the back. I'm just trying to think of all the different things that are mixing in the air right now in this spring air, and I just kind of wish you could be here to just smell all the fresh, wonderful smells that that are coming from the garden. It's one of the greatest pleasures, I've got to say, to just walk near this and then just suddenly catch a whiff of something wonderful. So there we go. I hope you've enjoyed the tour. Sorry about the wobble. There we go. So yes, I hope you've enjoyed the tour, and I'll keep posting little updates, and I'm really just trying to get people encouraged to just give this a go, just start with one thing, add something else. That's how I started. I've got no horticulture background at all. I've literally just been Googling things. I don't have green thumbs, green fingers. I've killed more things than you can imagine, but it's an experiment. This is my lab. I'll try something. If it works, I'll try it. I'll grow it again. One thing I cannot grow for the life of me here is raspberries. I have tried and tried, and eventually I've given up. Maybe the wrong kind of soil. I may try it again at some point when I have the heart for it, but every so often you're just like, you know what, that just doesn't want to grow here. So none of this happened overnight, so I would just say give it a go. Hi. Okay. Good. Everybody can hear me. Thank you. So that was a little tour of my front garden. I like to dig around and find things that you can't get in the shops, because then that way I get to have all kinds of exciting things like purslane, like the nasturtiums. Um, the nasturtium capers are something that I use a lot. I use them in pizzas. I use them anywhere that you would use capers. I use them in salads. And it's always really nice to have a few of those tubs ready to hand. Um, the next segment is going to be about the things that I do with rosemary, as I mentioned. Um, Herbs are a wonderful thing to have in your garden, and that was one of the first things that I started growing, because they add so much to your cooking with a relatively little space. I mean, even if you just have a window box, even if you're just growing them inside, indoors, I would highly recommend having a little windowsill full of your favorite herbs, whatever they may be, whether it's basil or coriander is one of my favorites, dill. So just having that to hand makes cooking so much more fun as well. So sometimes they also get slightly out of hand, as is the case with this rosemary bush. I bought it as a little plant from a supermarket a couple of years ago, and it now is, without lying, comes up to about here on me. So there's a lot of rosemary, and apart from the things that I make in the kitchen that I'm about to show you, I also sometimes, when I prune it, when I cut it down, apart from giving obviously some to neighbors and friends, I sometimes add it in with the flowers. You know, like if I cut a couple of roses from the front, just add in some foliage, some nice smells. And we sometimes put it on the barbecue to add that little bit of rosemary taste to everything that we cook on there. So yes, I guess without further ado, maybe we'll move over into the kitchen. Hi, I'm Tanya. Welcome to my kitchen. Today I want to show you a couple of things that you can make with rosemary. This is just one branch of a rosemary that I planted a couple of years ago from a little supermarket rosemary shrub, kind of like the basils that I have here. It was about that size and now it's almost my height. So I've started thinking, what can I make with rosemary apart from, you know, all the obvious recipes that call for rosemary. So one thing that I want to try today is to make a rosemary white wine vinegar. So literally I just have a bottle here. It's actually had vinegar in it before. I've just washed it out. I've got some vinegar and I've got my rosemary. So all I'm going to do is pop a little bit of the rosemary in here with the vinegar and then let it sit for a few weeks. And if I can fit it, I'm going to put another sprig in. Okay, there we go. I'm going to fill this right up. Okay. I'm using the wrong lid. That's where we're going. Here we go. That solved that. So there we go. There's my rosemary vinegar. I'm going to leave it to steep for a couple of weeks somewhere and then I will taste it. So what it is, it's really just a rosemary and garlic rub. Those are the only two ingredients you need. If you want to, and I think I will do today, is you can also add some salt and pepper. Everything just to taste. I guess you could chop this up manually, but I'm going to use a coffee grinder. So I've just chopped the garlic up into fairly big chunks. I'm going to pop them in there. I'll add a tiny bit of salt, not too much. Pinch. And then I'm going to use the very soft bits. I don't want to use any of this woody stem, so I'm going to cut a lot of the soft bits off and then put them in there. Okay, so I've pretty much filled that up. Again, show to the camera, the garlic's in there, the rosemary's in there, bit of salt. Then just give it a couple of seconds in the coffee grinder. Okay, that's all done. Wow, that is potent. So it just looks like that. It's going to look a lot nicer once I've poured it into a little jar. There we go. I think I'm just going to use a clean finger just to pull some of that out. And I'm going to make a couple of these little jars and keep them in the fridge for when I need to rub anything. If you want to make this into a meat rub, I would add some olive oil and then kind of massage it into your meat. With mushrooms, literally, I just sprinkle it on top. The same thing with maybe a vegetable stir fry. Just take a teaspoon or two and sprinkle that on top. They also make quite nice little gifts if you're going around for dinner or something like that. Um, and seeing as there is so much of this, then why not? And sometimes, you know, midweek or you're busy, you know, I kind of can't, I don't want to be going out there looking for the herbs and so on. It's just really nice to have a few little herb mixes that are still fresh, ready to go in the fridge or right next to here where we cook. So that's my rosemary session. So I hope you enjoyed that. There was a little comment about basil from Eleanor, so I'm going to talk a little bit about how to get the best results when you grow basil. One of the things is, I mean, the main thing with basil is it needs sun. It needs a lot of sun. The best results I've ever had have been either in the front garden in a really sunny spot or on a sunny windowsill in a pot. The other thing is to not overwater it and don't feed it too much. It's one of those things, it kind of tends to, sometimes it can flop a little bit and you give it a little bit of water, but don't kind of drench it and don't let it sit in water if it's inside on a plate. So let it kind of dry out and then you water it again. But as I say, the main thing for it is to find it a really nice sunny spot. Not anywhere it's going to burn, but somewhere that it gets a lot of hours of sunlight. I think it needs those hours more than anything else. The other tip that I've only recently learned about basil is that just take a lot of cuttings. If you have like a nice basil bush, take various cuttings off of that, put them into a glass of water for a week or so until they grow little roots, and then you can have new basil plants growing. So in some ways, then if one dies, it's not such a big deal because you've got these other little plants coming up. And if you like it, it's just great having these big, fragrant, loads and loads of basil everywhere. So try and find a space, a place that it really likes living. It's the same with basically anything you're trying to grow. The situation, the location is almost the most important thing that you can do. So let me just double check if there's, oh, there we go. Yeah, you're welcome, Elena. If you've got any other questions that kind of pop up after we've wrapped up and so on, you can always drop them into the bottom of this video for the next couple of days. I'll check them, I'll answer them on there. Or if it's, you know, a little while ago, then you can always go on to the Edible Garden Facebook page and ping me from there, post some questions. On there, it's Edible Garden 00. There's a couple of different ones on the Facebook page, but we'll put a link in for that. The tips, the recipes, all of those will keep coming on the page, even though we're finishing this series for now. And again, I am building an edible-garden.com website, so you can go on there. But at the moment, that's got longer articles, things about abundance, a little bit more philosophical. The Facebook page is a little bit more practical. So yes, any other questions, any other comments? There's one thing I wanted to talk about today, which is slugs and snails. I try and garden without any slug pellets because the birds eat them, then you know the cats kill the birds or some other things, they die in the ground. Even though they are relatively ecologically friendly, I try not to use them. And I've tried every trick out there, from coffee grounds to eggshells to all kinds of things. The best tricks that I've found are nematodes. Like you can nematode the garden once or twice. Again, I've got more details on that on the page, but I might buy a pack of nematodes, which is about a tenner, once at the very beginning of spring and once kind of at the beginning, let's say round about this kind of time. Other than that, I use beer traps, which you don't have to fill with beer. You can just fill with a mixture of sugar and yeast. Cheaper, and you don't have to waste the beer. Or then also copper tape. So they really don't like crossing copper tape. So I cut up plastic bottles, put a little copper tape rim round the end, and then put that round some prized plants. So that's basically me trying to keep them at bay. If I could possibly have a hedgehog or a little pond with toads and so on, those would also keep the slug population down. I'm also about to start studying slugs a little bit more, because not all slugs apparently eat everything. So I need to see which slug varieties, which slug types are kind of the worst for the garden, because also, I don't really like killing them unless I have to. So if I know that a particular type is pretty harmless, I can then just happily leave it and let it be. So that's my little talk on slugs. I'm not going to be disappearing from the library lives quite yet. I'm going to be live on air with Eleanor on Friday's library lunch, talking about my next project, which is going to be an e-course on networking for people who don't like networking, and it's all going to be enjoyable and fun. But anyway, I'm not going to talk too much about that, because I'm going to have a chat with Eleanor about that. So I hope you've enjoyed this series, and yeah, I really just wanted to encourage everybody to just grow something. Give it a go. It gives you so much, things that you wouldn't even have thought could come from sticking your hands in the dirt and growing a couple of things to put into your kitchen. So thank you so much for coming on this journey with us. And yeah, thank you.